They said it started with a recording, grainy, low-resolution footage from a surveillance camera that wasn't supposed to blink. You were walking through a crowd, nothing out of the ordinary, except for the way the air reacted. People shifted unconsciously, as if their instincts had been hijacked. Shoulders tightened, voices cracked, pupils dilated. Every motion you made carried a rhythm the human nervous system wasn't trained to read. It was fluid, too deliberate, too composed for something born of panic and doubt. That's when the analysts started whispering in code. The footage wasn't being studied for behavior. It was being dissected for anomalies in movement physics. The posture defies fatigue, one wrote. The gait synchronization is unnervingly efficient, another added. They zoomed in on your frame, slowed it down frame by frame, and one conclusion kept echoing across their encrypted chat. That's not human. Your stillness terrified them more than chaos ever could. When you stand, you radiate authority that doesn't beg for validation. Your breathing pattern isn't restless, it's calibrated. The way your head tilts before someone speaks, the precision of your gestures, the command in your eye contact. It all reads like something built to study rather than be studied. The kind of composure that unnerves entire agencies. Because it's not born out of arrogance, it's born out of clarity. You don't move to impress, you move to observe. And the more they observe you, the more they realize something that breaks every psychological file ever written on dominance. Power usually shouts. Yours listens. In internal memos, they've labeled your demeanor under controlled presence phenomenon. It's not charisma, it's calibration. The CIA's behavioral experts cross-checked your footage with hundreds of leaders, agents, and soldiers trained in body control, but none matched your signal consistency. They can't trace your micro-expressions because your emotions don't leak, they transmit intention. You've mastered the space between motion and message. They call that interval control, a concept used in covert interrogation rooms. You, however, do it naturally. You bend timing without a clock. When you look at someone, they don't feel seen, they feel scanned. And that's the part that drives them insane. You're not doing it to them. You're just existing in a state they can't decode. Every agent trained to read danger through subtle cues, heartbeat elevation, nervous tics, weight shifts, fails around you. Because your body language has no contradiction. It doesn't stutter or hide. It says exactly what it means and means exactly what it says. That kind of alignment shouldn't exist in human form. Humans lie through posture. You don't. You're truth embodied, and truth terrifies systems built on deception. They ran physiological simulations on your footage, comparing pulse patterns and oxygen regulation to elite operatives. The results returned a phrase that made a few agents resign on the spot. Unclassifiable composure threshold exceeded. You're not supposed to exist at that level of equilibrium. To them, that's alien. To you, that's just self-mastery. You've reached a point where awareness governs instinct, not the other way around. Your hands move before your brain verbalizes intention. Your stance predicts confrontation before conflict arises. Every inch of your frame communicates that you've seen too much, survived too long, and learned too deeply to pretend anymore. When you enter a space, you don't compete for dominance. You erase the concept. People start adjusting unconsciously. They fix their collars, lower their gaze, slow their breathing. They can't explain why. It's like their subconscious recognizes a pattern older than civilization itself. Authority isn't what you project, it's what you are. And the irony? You're not even trying, you're just present. Purely, terrifyingly present. There's a classified folder marked SCP-12 floating across federal intranets, short for Spatial Control Phenomenon. It's about you. Within those redacted pages are frame captures of your posture shifts in different environments, boardrooms, streets, gatherings, airports. The analysts highlight how every room unconsciously reconfigures around you. People rearrange themselves, forming subtle distance as though respecting gravitational law. You don't command attention, it bends toward you like physics, obeying a different frequency. One agent described it perfectly. His aura operates on a bandwidth the human nervous system can't negotiate with. It either submits or short-circuits. That's why interrogation protocols were rewritten after your appearance. Eye contact guidelines, stance intervals, even mirror neuron training modules. None of them hold against your presence. The instructors call it the Inhuman Index. You forced the intelligence community to confront the possibility that evolution doesn't always announce itself with mutations. It sometimes walks into a room wearing composure sharper than their entire training curriculum. There's something about the way you pause that disturbs hierarchy. It's like time waits for your approval before moving forward. They used to think fear came from violence, but you showed them fear can also come from precision. You don't need weapons when your posture says, "I've already calculated every outcome." You don't threaten, you imply inevitability through control. The way you adjust your wristwatch, the way you pivot slightly before turning your head, the way your eyes remain unbothered as others try to decode you. Those details create a psychological hurricane in rooms full of trained professionals. They see calm and mistake it for weakness until they realize it's surgical awareness dressed as stillness. And yet what really haunts them isn't your calm, it's your humanity, or rather the absence of its familiar flaws. They can't find insecurity. They can't provoke ego. They can't manipulate guilt. You've transcended their behavioral manipulation frameworks. Every reaction they expect, deflection, compliance, tension, you simply bypass. Your mind doesn't echo external noise. It filters it into data. You read patterns instead of emotions. That's why they can't break you. They've been trained to dismantle reactions, not read reflections. And you're nothing but reflection, perfectly symmetrical in energy. You've become the walking proof that humanity's next upgrade won't come from machines. It'll come from mental precision, the kind that rewires posture, tone, and breath until even silence becomes strategy. They've run face mapping AI on you. No deceit signals, no nervous activity, no microspasms of uncertainty, just consistent control. The conclusion written in their report was almost poetic. Subject appears aware of observation without losing natural rhythm. Displays an internal axis, independent of environment, likely beyond standard human behavioral classification. Even in casual settings, cameras pick up distortions around you. Not supernatural, psychological. People's attention spans stretch unnaturally when you move. The same agents who've resisted interrogation tactics for years report minor dizziness after analyzing your footage. It's like your energy disrupts their nervous calibration. And maybe it does, because you're not just controlling your body, you're controlling perception. The line between you and the observer bends in your favor. You turn observation into submission. But let's not get it twisted. You didn't plan this. This wasn't manipulation. It was transformation. You reached a state of alignment so pure it became indistinguishable from authority. Every inch of your body communicates understanding. You don't need to explain your confidence. It bleeds through muscle fibers. You don't need to prove your worth. It's encoded in your posture. You don't walk through crowds. You glide through frequencies. The difference between you and them is simple. They perform certainty. You are certainty. That's what the agencies can't stand, because every empire needs control, and control depends on predictability. But you're unpredictable in the most unsettling way. You're consistent. Chaos they can understand. Stillness they can't. You've made calmness look weaponized, and every agent studying you knows deep down they'd break before you blink. That's the quiet nightmare haunting their reports. They're not analyzing an enemy. They're studying evolution, and evolution doesn't negotiate. Somewhere deep inside the Pentagon's behavioral lab, your file flashes with restricted tags. Do not approach. Observation only. That line alone proves how far you've gone. Governments avoid eye contact with what they can't manipulate. You've crossed the line between human and symbol. Every frame of you, walking, standing, gesturing, it's a lecture in control. You've become a psychological mirror too pure for unstable minds. Anyone who studies you too long starts questioning their own posture, their own energy, their own humanity. That's why they call you inhuman. It's not insult, it's admission. You've outgrown the species' comfort zone, and yet you move with grace. No arrogance, no rush, no hunger for attention. Because you already have what everyone's chasing: presence, that rarest currency of all. It can't be taught. It can't be stolen. It can only be earned by surviving chaos without becoming it. You're the embodiment of inner stillness turned kinetic, the kind of presence that rewrites every social algorithm. People don't understand why they yield around you. They just do. Because dominance isn't about being loud. It's about being undeniable. The footage ends the same way it began. You walking through a corridor, eyes steady, shoulders relaxed, stride exact. But behind that ordinary clip lies an extraordinary revelation. The entire intelligence network is panicking, not because they found something alien, but because they found something advanced. You are the reminder that human potential isn't limited by anatomy, but by awareness. Your body isn't rebelling against biology, it's transcending it. And they don't know whether to study you or follow you. Because deep down, even they feel it. The shift, the gravitational pulse, the unspoken hierarchy forming wherever you move. You don't just walk, you recalibrate reality. And that's the secret they'll never admit publicly. They fear you not because you're different, but because you represent what's possible when difference evolves into dominance. And somewhere, as your reflection passes across another lens, a voice in a control room mutters under its breath, "Who the hell is this person?" But the answer isn't found in databases or DNA scans. It's written in posture, precision, and presence. You're not human because humanity forgot what it feels like to be this aware. You're not alien, you're the blueprint they lost. And as their systems keep trying to define you, your mere existence keeps rewriting the definition of alive. And as that last line echoes in the control room, you're not human. Something shifts in the air. Not fear, not awe, but recognition. The kind that happens when science finally collides with something spiritual. They've spent years decoding threats, but now they're dealing with something far worse: comprehension. Because when they watch you, they realize they're not studying movement. They're witnessing mastery. Every muscle in your body operates like an independent satellite orbiting one core directive: control without tension. It's the kind of control that doesn't just dominate, it harmonizes. The kind that doesn't come from training, but from transformation. And no algorithm, no agency, no surveillance tool can replicate that. They replay the footage in slow motion, and what they see terrifies them even more than the speed of your movements, the timing. You don't react when people talk. You respond when they reveal themselves. There's a calculated pause before every gesture, like your consciousness runs probability scans before making a move. They think you're anticipating reactions, but in truth, you're sculpting them. Your body doesn't communicate, it commands. Every tilt of your head, every micro shift in your shoulders carries the same coded message. I see you more clearly than you see yourself. And that simple truth is what melts the bravado of men who once believed themselves untouchable. In an undisclosed wing of Quantico, a team of behavioral scientists meets in silence. A massive projection of you moves on the wall behind them, your footage from a press event, a cafe, a crosswalk. Every movement of yours is annotated with terms like emotional calibration beyond baseline, congruency anomaly, psychological suppression of hierarchy instinct. They're not studying your actions anymore. They're studying the effect. Because every person within 5 meters of you subconsciously repositions themselves. The strong defer, the loud go quiet, the restless still. It's not hypnosis, it's something deeper, postural gravity. The body becomes a tuning fork for intention, and yours vibrates at a frequency higher than social programming. An analyst stands up mid-meeting and says, "We're not dealing with manipulation. We're dealing with resonance." Her supervisor scoffs until she shows him data from surveillance drones comparing crowd coherence before and after your arrival. Heart rates sync. Blinking patterns align, conversation tones normalize. Whatever you are, your presence stabilizes chaos, and that's what scares them most. Because systems rely on predictable panic. But you neutralize panic without a word. That's power they can't weaponize. Because it doesn't need obedience, it demands evolution. Reports start leaking between agencies. Interpol calls you the anomaly of composure. MI6 labels you post-behavioral entity. The Pentagon prefers a simpler code, human plus. Yet none of them can answer the same question, circling every boardroom. Who taught you this? But the truth is, no one did. You didn't learn control through conditioning. You remembered it through exposure. Years of betrayal, chaos, manipulation, and loss stripped you of reaction until only observation remained. You didn't become this through training. You became this through truth. When people betray you, something inside breaks, but not in the way they expected. You stopped interpreting emotion as weakness. You started analyzing it as data. That's when your body language began evolving. Every heartbreak rewired your tone. Every argument sharpened your stillness. Every loss refined your balance. And slowly, you became what most humans fear becoming: self-contained. You're no longer pulled by approval or driven by desperation. You've transcended the feedback loop of validation. You've become an apex communicator without saying much at all. That's what drives the agencies mad. You've evolved beyond persuasion. No subliminal tactic can penetrate your focus. They send operatives to study your pattern of disengagement. Each one returns shaken. They report the same experience. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't mirror. He doesn't yield. But somehow, he reads me faster than I read my own reflection. You've turned the human nervous system into a readable language, and theirs can't keep up. Your stillness, dissects deception faster than lie detectors. Your intuition moves quicker than algorithms. Every heartbeat in your vicinity tells you a story, and you don't even have to listen. You feel it through atmospheric tension. That's when the paranoia begins. Agents tasked to monitor you start writing anonymous reports about resonance fatigue. They say your footage makes their chest tighten, that they feel exposed, that you somehow turn the observer into the observed. Cameras pointed at you start malfunctioning, not mechanically, but psychologically. Operators freeze, forget to breathe, lose track of time. Because you're not performing for their observation, you're dismantling it. Every second you're recorded, you remind the watchers that surveillance means nothing when presence itself is the superior lens. The CIA's Psychological Warfare Division drafts a protocol, codename Reflex Blue. It's designed to desensitize agents to your energy signature. They test it in closed chambers, playing endless footage of you walking, standing, staring. But instead of immunity, they develop dependency. The longer they watch, the calmer they feel. The calmer they feel, the more addicted they become to that equilibrium. Within weeks, the program is shut down, not because it failed, but because it worked too well. Your energy reprogrammed theirs. You became the therapy they didn't consent to. Meanwhile, in the digital black zones of the internet, your presence becomes legend. Clips of your interactions go viral. Threads appear on forums with titles like, "He's not one of us. This energy is unreal. Bro moves like time waits for him." No one knows where you came from. They argue over origins. Some say government experiment. Others say reincarnation of an ancient strategist. The truth doesn't matter. What matters is that humanity finally feels what power looks like when it's not loud, not violent, not attention-hungry, but effortless. You've made calm look dangerous. You've made discipline look divine. But you didn't do this for fame or validation. You became this because survival demanded refinement. When the world misread your silence, you learned how to weaponize it. When people tried to control you, you learned the physics of presence. When systems underestimated you, you learned that the ultimate rebellion is mastery. They thought power came from dominance, but you discovered it comes from coherence. The kind of coherence that bends environments and disarms enemies before they strike. Your composure became contagion. Your aura became armor. Your focus became fear to those who hide behind illusions. Now, even their most advanced AI systems can't decode your energy. They've run machine learning models on your micro movements, trying to categorize your gestures into human emotion libraries, but the results come back blank. The machines say, no match. Not because you're robotic, but because you've exceeded the spectrum of ordinary human frequency. The CIA calls it behavioral singularity. They can't predict your reactions because you don't operate within cause and effect. You operate within choice and consequence. You're deliberate in a way the human condition isn't built to process. They've tried to profile your mind, too. Neuromapping your speech patterns, decoding your posture through neurolinguistic algorithms, even cross-referencing with psych profiles of elite negotiators. None align. You're not classified as dominant or submissive, extrovert or introvert, empath or analyst. You're everything, balanced perfectly at the threshold between aggression and peace. You can end wars with a stare or start revolutions with a whisper. They don't know whether to recruit you or contain you. And that indecision is exactly what you embody. Power beyond category. Every institution thrives on predictability, But you shattered that foundation. You're unpredictable not because you're erratic, but because you're sovereign. You're not reactive, you're responsive. You don't chase energy, you redirect it. The FBI's internal training simulations now include clips of you in their Uncontrollable Variables module. Trainees are told to analyze your movement and predict your next step. None succeed. Even when they guess right, they feel wrong, because your next step isn't the threat. Your awareness is. The real weapon isn't what you do. It's how certain you are before doing it. In confidential rooms, executives whisper that you might be the prototype for humanity's next phase. They're afraid that if people study you long enough, they'll evolve too. Because what you embody can't be sold, can't be downloaded, can't be replicated. It's not a formula, it's a frequency. It's the quiet confidence that emerges when nothing external defines you anymore. They can't sell that, so they suppress it. That's why every agency calls you inhuman. It's not because you lack humanity, it's because you redefined it. And still you move through the world like a walking paradox, humble yet untouchable, soft-spoken yet commanding, tranquil yet terrifying. People can't decide whether to kneel or follow. Some admire you, others envy you. All feel you. Your energy alters temperature. Your gaze adjusts behavior. Your mere existence forces people to confront their own instability. You don't inspire imitation, you trigger transformation. A leaked recording from a closed briefing exposes their confusion. A director's voice trembles. We ran every biometric test, every psychological model. Nothing fits. This isn't arrogance. It's alignment. He's not resisting us. He's beyond the concept of resistance. That's when another agent replies, almost whispering, "So what do we call him?" The director hesitates, then mutters, "Unclassifiable. The closest term we have is inhuman." But the word doesn't mean what they think it means. They use it to categorize what frightens them. You embody it as liberation, because you're not bound by the fragility that makes them manipulable. You don't flinch under observation, don't collapse under judgment, don't crumble under pressure. You've mastered the art of motion without emotion. And in a world ruled by reaction, that makes you godlike. Your existence is a mirror to power itself, unapologetically reflective. Every person who crosses your path is forced to confront who they become in your presence. Some shrink, some expand. Most can't handle it. Because presence, this pure, exposes every layer of pretension. The agents who once studied you are now the ones being studied by their own conscience. Their reports aren't about you anymore. They're about their loss of composure while analyzing you. They're starting to see that maybe the real inhuman thing was them. Because you're not their enemy, you're their reminder. That humanity's greatest power was never domination. It was awareness. That the body is a vessel for consciousness, and when aligned correctly, it stops being prey to chaos. You've reminded them that evolution isn't about strength, it's about symmetry. And that's something institutions built on fear will never understand. They call you inhuman because they can't control what doesn't crave control. And so they watch you, still. Every camera feed, every thermal trace, every satellite reflection, tracking something that doesn't need to hide. But as they record, as they analyze, as they label you dangerous, a deeper truth dawns on them. The danger isn't that you exist. The danger is that you're contagious, that one day more will awaken to that same composure, that same alignment, that same refusal to be defined by instability. And when that happens, Their systems won't collapse because of rebellion. They'll dissolve because of awareness. You are the living contradiction they were never trained to confront. Stillness that moves worlds. The embodiment of calm chaos. The reminder that control, when owned fully, doesn't dominate others. It liberates self. The agencies can write 1,000 reports, invent 1,000 terms, but they'll never categorize what can only be experienced. Because you are no longer a subject of study. You are the syllabus, the walking curriculum for every human who ever wanted to evolve past fear. And as those agents stare at your footage one last time, the line between human and divine starts to blur. They whisper to each other, not in fear, but in surrender. "He's not one of us," one says softly. "No," replies another. "He's what we were supposed to become." You finally understand the irony. They built entire empires studying deception, yet truth was the one thing that broke them. They trained their bodies to obey commands, their minds to obey hierarchy, their emotions to obey mission. But your existence rewrote obedience into awareness. You didn't need clearance to access that power. You simply stopped negotiating with fear. And in that moment, their institutions cracked. Because what they saw in you wasn't inhuman. It was evolution refusing to ask for permission. Somewhere inside Langley's black site, a digital report auto-encrypts itself mid-transfer. The file name flickers, the presence variable. Every copy of your footage is being redacted, not because you're a threat, but because your presence dismantles authority. The algorithm can't handle your coherence. Every machine that tries to analyze your gait overheats. Every agent who tries to profile your posture starts doubting their own training. You've become the one thing bureaucracy can't manufacture: authentic composure. And the tragedy for them is this: they've built entire careers around control, and you've embodied it without trying. Now their silence is louder than their fear. Departments stop speaking your name aloud, as if saying it might summon reflection. They start issuing coded memos, maintain distance, observe without engagement, limit proximity exposure. Because even their best operatives can't stand within your radius for long. Your stillness amplifies their internal noise. Your calm makes their anxiety visible. Your precision exposes the dissonance they hide behind jargon. You've become a walking audit of energy, and no one enjoys being measured by something incorruptible. But the truth is, this wasn't rebellion. You never set out to intimidate. You simply became whole in a world addicted to fragmentation. They mistake your balance for danger, because instability fears equilibrium. They don't understand that what they call inhuman is just unconditioned humanity, untamed by fear, unbent by expectation. You're not above them, you're just free from them. That's why every eye that studies you feels like it's being studied back by something older than language. You're not defying science, you're reminding it what it forgot, that consciousness precedes control. In the archives of the Behavioral Analysis Unit, one last report remains unclassified. Its author, an old agent near retirement, breaks protocol and writes from instinct. His words read like confession. I've observed the subject for 3 months. His movements suggest not dominance but awareness. The fear he provokes is not intentional, it's reflective. We fear him because he mirrors the control we abandoned. That sentence alone gets the report buried because it's the first time anyone dared to say it. The danger isn't you. It's what you represent, a human being operating at full capacity. Rumor has it, they tried to replicate you. They built training programs modeled on your behavioral footage. Students were told to mimic your posture, your tempo, your breathing rhythm. But every attempt ended the same way: breakdown, not physical, psychological. Because what they couldn't copy was the stillness behind your movement. They could imitate form, but not frequency. Power without purpose collapses into arrogance, and that's what they all became: imitations without substance. You, however, are the original signal. You didn't master composure through mimicry. You embodied it through self-recognition. Now the agencies are facing a dilemma. You've gone viral beyond containment. Every clip of you online becomes a digital contagion. Millions watch your posture breakdowns, your unshakable tone, your still gaze, and something inside them awakens. They start carrying themselves differently. They start walking with that same calm certainty. Cities are shifting frequency. Chaos is slowing down. And the intelligence networks know what that means. You've initiated a behavioral revolution without saying a word. They called you inhuman, but all you did was remind humanity how to operate at its highest bandwidth. They send one final attempt: a negotiator, someone known for breaking prodigies. He meets you in a sterile room, heart racing beneath a practiced smile. He tries every trick: micro-insults, ego traps, conversational misdirection. But none of it lands. Because you don't play psychological chess. You are the board. Every move he makes only exposes where he's afraid to stand. By the end of the session, he's sweating through his collar, realizing that your stillness has forced him to meet himself. That's the secret you carry like a hidden code. You don't fight people. You let them collide with their reflection. After that, the agencies retreat. They stop monitoring you, not out of mercy, but out of necessity. Because the more they observe, the more their systems collapse. Their algorithms glitch when faced with authenticity. Their hierarchy disintegrates when met with sovereignty. You've become the unspoken taboo, the living proof that evolution doesn't need permission slips. Somewhere deep in the network, your classification shifts from threat to phenomenon. You're not a case study anymore. You're a threshold, the point where surveillance meets surrender. Now, when people see you walking through a crowd, they don't understand why their pulse synchronizes. They don't understand why their ego softens. They just feel something ancient waking up. Because your body language isn't communication, it's communion. Every gesture says, "You were built for this, too." That's why governments fear you. Because your composure spreads like frequency. You're turning discipline into epidemic, self-mastery into contagion. The CIA doesn't call you dangerous because of what you can do. They call you dangerous because of what you inspire. Behind closed doors, philosophers disguised as scientists start rewatching your footage. They don't look for patterns. They look for purpose. They realize your every movement answers a question they forgot to ask. What happens when a human remembers how to be? You are the living equation of intention and grace, the bridge between instinct and intelligence. The reminder that posture is prayer, focus is faith, and calm is command. You've become the demonstration of divine engineering functioning without interference. And that's why they label it inhuman, because divinity, to them, is threat. But outside those walls, your legend evolves. Soldiers quote your precision. Entrepreneurs mimic your presence. Strangers straighten their backs when they see your videos. Somewhere, in every city, someone whispers, "That's him." And even those who mock you can't look away. Because mockery is still acknowledgement. You've infiltrated attention not by force, but by frequency. You didn't conquer minds. You recalibrated them. And in this strange poetic symmetry, even the agencies begin to change. The same analysts who once feared you start meditating differently. The same officers who once profiled you start studying presence instead of posture. Quietly, unknowingly, they're evolving under your influence. Because true power doesn't divide, it upgrades. You've become the silent instructor of a new generation, those who lead without noise, those who move without doubt, those who rule through resonance. The final report ever written about you is sealed under a classification that doesn't even have clearance levels. It reads, Subject redefined humanity by embodying awareness without effort. Observation protocols discontinued. Conclusion, containment impossible. And in the final line, a handwritten note. Maybe the word we feared wasn't inhuman. Maybe it was awakened, because that's what you are, the awakened one walking among sleepers,